Welcome to WagerTalk TV. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by Marco D'Angelo. And Ralph Michaels. Don't mind me, guys. Just a klutz over here. I just was so excited about this Big Ten matchup. Too
much bling.
Kelly, if you need a little more attention, why don't you just make a sound so everyone's paying attention to you, okay? You're ready to have the cameras on you. It's okay to...
I really was excited for this game.
How excited?
Not anymore. It's not. Penn State has just kind of crashed and burned. I was on Iowa last week. I covered by the hook. A lot of people pushed on that one. That being said, Penn State, I thought, was looking ahead to this game. This is a really big game for them here, but I'm leaning towards Michigan in this one. They're almost #1 defense in every single stat that I could find online, and I'm not sold that Trace McSorley is going to be 100% for this one. Your thoughts, Marco D'Angelo?
Penn State hasn't been the same since the Ohio State loss. They lost the Ohio State game twice because the next week they come back and gave up the late touchdown to Michigan State. And
Someone says that on our podcast a lot, too. Oh, that's right. That's you. Losing a game twice off a bubble burst loss.
And it's a situation where, they gave up 28 points to Indiana. And last week, Iowa, who doesn't have an earth-shattering offense, was able to get 24 points. And Penn State struggled in that game. They were lucky to get the win. And if they don't get the 51-yard run from Trace McSorley after halftime, and I want whatever they gave him at halftime, because the guy limped into the locker room. And clearly, Iowa, you talk about totally being play fake. Nobody expected him to keep the ball on that play. They were going the other direction, and he went around the end untouched for 51 yards. And that was basically the offense for the rest of the game. And they got that interception at the end that preserved the win for Penn State. How do they score on this defense?
Yeah, and that's my concern here, Ralph. This Michigan team, after they lost to Notre Dame to start the season, all of a sudden everybody was pretty low on Michigan. I was on Notre Dame, and I also was on Northwestern at home. Thought Northwestern had a chance to beat them, and they had them on the ropes for a better part of the game. Now we've seen Michigan go back home and play absolutely great football in the Big House. I know we talk about home field advantage here. This is one of those games where are we going to be giving Michigan 5 for the Big House in this one? Is that why we're seeing such a high line?
With a rare night game, I agree with that. Now, this is a game that opened at the Superbook in the summer. It was Michigan 6. So we've seen it bounce back, and I think that's a little bit of both. Half of it is Michigan playing better than expected. Half is Penn State. McSorley's injury does bother me. His mobility is what makes him special and what keeps Penn State alive on third down against the defensive line that is so athletic. And when you have people like Gary in the middle who are 320 pounds and can catch McSorley chasing him to the outside, again, that's an entirely different perspective that Penn State hasn't seen. Yes, they were at home against Ohio State with the D-line, but they didn't have Boast in that game. And you could tell McSorley ran for first downs. Now he's on the road. Now he can't hear the cadence, and he's going to have an issue. And you want to talk about Michigan being the #1 defense. Well, if you play a weak schedule, anyone could be a #1 defense. But the most impressive thing about me for Michigan is they played 8 games. In 6 of those games, they've held their opponent to a season low. So not only below their average, they've held 6 of their 8 opponents to a season low. Only once in the last 15 years have I seen a team that good, and that was Alabama. I think for the season, they held 7 or 8 opponents to a season low. Michigan can do that at home in this situation. Plus, Michigan off a bye, off one of their biggest wins, breaking the Michigan State curse on the road. And Penn State, while they had a bye about 6 weeks ago, this is their 4th or 5th straight game. Again, even with this line, the way Shea Patterson has now grasped the offense, as good as this defense is, I'm a Michigan fan this week.
Kelly, throw one last thing in there. As Ralph said, Michigan is coming off the bye, off the Michigan State game, which I like that because they did, how many games in a row did they lose to?
They were 2-8, 2-8 their last 10.
Yeah.
They lost 10 straight against the spread.
But after this game for Michigan, there's clear sailing until the Ohio State game. This is really the only game left on their schedule where they could have a possible test. I like them here. Rare night game. How often do they have a night game in Michigan?
Once a year,
not
maybe.
Anymore,
Not even once a year.
Yeah.
And the irony is, Ohio State fans are rooting for Michigan too, because Michigan's number, whatever they are in the poll, Ohio State's 10. They need Michigan to keep getting better to have that potential shot to be the long shot to come up and beat them at the end of the year.
Good stuff, guys. Tuesday is always $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk, and you can get the hottest handicapper at WagerTalk's best bet for just $2.